This is me.
Just kidding, this is me. Hello, my name is Amanda and welcome to my channel, Always Popular, where I will be talking about pop culture, music, film, drama, and fan videos. Hello and welcome back to my channel, Always Popular. I'm Amanda, your host. Let's jump into this week's episode. Last year in 2024, many pop fans saw a rise in new female pop stars like Sabrina Carpenter, Chappelle Roan, and pop veterans like Charli XCX and Billie Eilish had really big years of their career. However, one girl may have been left behind in the pop world, Tate McRae. So why hasn't Tate blown up the way her peers are? Or is she missing something? Let's get into it. Tate McRae is a dancer and new singer, and she is best known for her viral TikTok song Greedy that was released in 2023. However, she has yet to break through into a bigger mainstream pop artist. So what's taken so long? Or is there something off about her? Tate McRae first gained attention as a dancer and finalist on So You Think You Can Dance and became the first Canadian finalist on the show in 2016. She was noticed by RCA Records, and then in 2020 she released her debut EP album, All the Things I Never Said. She then had a second EP album titled Too Young to Be Sad that was released in 2021 and went on to become the most streamed EP album of 2021 in Spotify history. Her song, You Broke Me First, became her first top 20 hit song. Since then, she has released 2 studio albums, and her newest album that was just released, So Close to What, in January of this year. However, Tate has a lot of potential. However, it feels like she is lacking something in her pop star persona or growing career. There are many reasons why I believe she hasn't had her big espresso moment. First of all, I feel like RCA has a problem with promoting and marketing artists and their music. For example, Normani, who is best known from Fifth Harmony, released the dance jam that is Motivation in 2019. However, I personally didn't know about her song at all, especially for a song that could have been the song of the summer. However, it was released too late. They could have been promoting that song all summer long, but they didn't until the VMA Awards happened later in August. Also, Normani isn't the only one from RCA who hasn't been properly promoted. Zayn from One Direction is the same way. He never gets talked about or promoted despite all his personal issues with performing live. In the end, if Tate doesn't switch to another label, she could suffer the same fate as them. On the music side of things, she sounds like a throwback 2000s artist in a modern pop landscape. There is nothing wrong with nostalgia, however, too much of that could make her sound outdated. There is nothing wrong with being inspired by older artists of the 2000s, however, if you come off as a knockoff version of someone else, that's not necessarily a good thing either. Ever since Tate has blown up, whether for her clothes or her music videos, it's always a nod or slight inspiration to Britney Spears, and many other people have noticed that too. She has given off Britney vibes because of her dancing and choreography. It all makes perfect sense because she's a big fan of hers and has cited her as the blueprint for pop music. However, her music has been sampled from the Pussycat Dolls for her recent new song like Sports Car. So for me, it feels like she's struggling to have her own identity in music and lacks personality. If I was her, I would be inspired by the late 2000s pop hit girls too. However, I would sound nothing like any of these people. I would want to be more me and still be inspired by them and say this is a Amanda song, not a Britney song. Also, many female artists in the past were already compared to Britney, and I bet they didn't like it either. Every record label wanted their own Britney because of how successful she was. It may be a compliment now, however, she could get sick of hearing that in the future. The last thing she would want in her career is for someone to look at her and say, oh, it's a Gen Z Britney, rather than being known for herself. Eventually, she'll have to erase that from her image. She needs to be more herself and less Britney. The quicker she becomes herself, the better. Be the next Tate McRae, not the next Britney Spears nor Nicole from the Pussycat Dolls. Just saying. Also, and speaking of her sound like other artists, her singing style and articulation makes me think of Ariana Grande. When Ariana came out on the scene, a lot of people complained about her singing style too and couldn't understand her. It's the same thing with Tate. I mean, I like her sound, however, she makes the music unlistenable for me because I can't understand her. Honestly, it's not just her, it's other people too, because for some reason nowadays many singers have adopted a weird singing style. She's one of them. For example, like for early 2000s artists, they could sing, dance, and properly articulate their singing. Once again, in reference to artists like Britney and Christina and even Fergie. Also, when Britney would sing and dance at the same time, I could understand her perfectly. And same thing with Nicole from the Pussycat Dolls. At the end of the day, maybe it's just me or there's something off about her singing. Also, it feels like she lacks the it factor too. She's good at music, but not great. Her dancing is her strong suit, and thank God, because there has been a lack of female dancing pop stars than years of the music industry. She has definitely filled that void for sure. However, I want to like her more, but I can't seem to get into her. What are your thoughts on Tate, and how did you become a fan of hers? Thanks for watching, and if you liked this video, then you can watch other videos on my channel as well.